The new and improved military outpost, arguably the main feature on the very much upgraded quarry map for 1.2 update in Incursion Red River. I had picked up a mission to steal some intelligence and hide it in a box somewhere in the outpost before extracting. And not for a moment did I believe that the fight I would have in and around the outpost would be as difficult as it would turn out to be. The story today begins just north of the outpost. I had made my way south from the northern part of the map, finding the intelligence in a small outpost just north of the main military base, and was now ready to make my final move. Resistance getting here had been relatively light. I had found a suppressor for my AK-74M, and I had also picked up an M700 sniper rifle with a 4x scope, courtesy of a chap on a roof further up north that nearly gave me a heart attack. Having arrived just across the open ground from the outpost, I took a good look through my scope. Everything seemed very quiet, very eerie. It was late in the evening, and conditions were somewhat hazy, making things all the more difficult, almost like a fog had descended upon the area. There were several entryways into the base, but it seemed to me that the gentlemanly thing to do would be to go to the main gate and simply knock. And this I endeavoured to do. Very carefully, of course, as the enemy no longer stamped their feet very deliberately or talked at 1,000,000 decibels, and it was necessary to strain my hearing as I moved along. Almost immediately, I came into contact with a chap in a guard tower, and opening fire on him, he retreated into cover, as did I, pulling out my sniper rifle to see if I could get a better shot. He appeared to have vanished, no sign or sound of the bloke. Moving along the fence a little way, I spotted another guard in another tower. This one I laid low with a single shot from my M700, and decided to aggressively push my way through the main gate. I immediately cleared a nearby guard post cum storage room before pushing out to continue clearing the outpost. I found the experience so far somewhat claustrophobic to say the least. Very tight packed buildings with makeshift barricades and Hesco-Bastion walls surrounding them. Fighting here could be very close quarters indeed. Coming round the corner, I took one poor chap by surprise, dropping him with a handful of shots. Thus far, my suppressed weapon had certainly worked in my favour. As little did I know, this base was swarming with men, and at last I heard the faint footsteps of one come looking for me. We exchanged fire, but having taken him by surprise, I was able to drop him quickly. And pressing on, I found myself coming under fire from an unknown quarter. Single, very accurate shots. I was forced back into cover inside a building. So far, this outpost, this military base, had been somewhat of a nerve-wracking experience for me. A cross between claustrophobia and a sense of being watched almost. A feeling that you might get shot at literally any moment from any direction. I decided to retreat to a vantage point, and from there began to pick off the enemy sentries. I saw men in towers, men on roofs, men on balconies, men just patrolling through the thoroughfares of the base. They were by far more in abundance than I had ever been before, and though the battle wasn't high in intensity, it was high in tension for me, as I'm sure I've already made quite clear. I cannot perceive a strategy where going in guns blazing, at least on one's own, would work in clearing this base. Having come under fire, I was forced to retreat further up into the tower, and from there I spotted my attacker, dropping him with a couple of well-aimed shots. Another soldier, having heard the commotion, had come looking for me. He also fell to my shots. And another on a roof was dropped without ever knowing I was even there. Feeling like I'd done some damage to the enemy garrison, I decided to start pressing on. And here I learned a new terrifying fact. The enemy now patrolled inside the buildings. Don't misunderstand me, they would go inside the buildings on the previous base design, but rarely did I ever see them simply patrolling inside those buildings. Now every window or doorway could have a rifle pointing out of it, and that fact was rather frightening. I felt that it would become all too easy to simply get pinned down in its outpost, and with the new AI now more aggressive, being pinned down would surely not do, as a hunt must obviously follow. Having gained myself some breathing space, I'd made my way towards the hangar warehouse type building, and even there, yet another enemy showed his face to me, before I promptly blew it off. I quickly made my way into what appeared to be another kind of guardhouse type building, strong concrete walls, and pushing through out the other side, I again came under fire from an as yet unknown quarter, an enemy on the roof. Our trading shots attracted more attention, and another enemy came storming out of another building to engage me. After some rather ropey shooting, I took cover for a brief moment behind a vehicle before pushing on, running across the open ground to gain the buildings. Once again, enemy voices echoed around me.
We've got suspicious activity.
And once again, my suppressed weapon served me very well. At last I was nearing the target building, where I was to lay up the intelligence in a box. The sun was sinking in the sky and night was drawing in, and I was not about to drop my guard for a moment. Pushing into the building, I headed for my objective. An enemy coming down the stairs, giving me a heart attack. By the time I returned fire, he was gone. I rapidly circled the ground floor, making sure it was clear before pushing upstairs where I believed my enemy had gone. I was about to have the most luckiest escape of my raid yet, however. By rights, I should have been dead. A burst from point blank range. Somehow I had dropped my enemy and he'd fallen right next to the box where I was to lay the intelligence. Promptly pushing upstairs, I began to clear the rest of the building before moving towards the exit, the extraction point that I so longed for to get myself out of this wretched base and home to my hideout. Constant sounds of footsteps around the building haunted me, and I pushed up onto the roof to see if I could get a vantage point to see where the enemy were, where they were patrolling from. And it wasn't long before I spotted one chap patrolling in a tower near to where I needed to exit the base. I gave him the good news of my M700, dropping him with a single shot, and that attracted more attention. But I needed to push on. It was nearly night time after all. I began making my way back downstairs, back towards the exit, out into the street, where I could finally make a run for the extraction point. As I already mentioned, my first experience of the outpost had been rather nerve-wracking, and it wasn't over yet. With night having very nearly set in, I was still coming under attack from enemy forces. Unseen soldiers now patrolling around in the dark. Only yards away from my objective, I had one more heart attack to endure.
Enemy detected! Engaging!
No more. I made a dash for it, and got to the extraction point. And having extracted, the new helpful debrief screen showed me that I had killed 30 enemies. Almost all must have been in the outpost. But the nearly $108,000 in loot was very welcome indeed. And so ended my first raid into the military outpost. I really hope you enjoyed this little tale. If you did, please do subscribe and leave a like. Tell me what you think in the comments. Hope to see you all again soon. Thank you once again. Cheerio.